So here we are again with another electric car from China. Yet again, another new Chinese brand is introducing a completely new electric car in Europe, and this time we're talking about NIO and the NIO ET7. This is their first electric car that they will introduce in Europe. They will start in Germany, Denmark, Sweden and the Netherlands, and they already introduced a car in Norway, and later they will expand in more countries in Europe. This is a pretty interesting car with a lot of, well, pretty special features, I would say, especially in the interior. There's a really, well, weird feature. What is also pretty spectacular on this car is the fact that it will be available with a 150 kilowatt-hour battery pack that will give this car an insane range. A bit more on the range later in this video. But there's another weird feature on this car, because this is the fastest charging electric car that you can get right now. And that's not because this car can fast charge with like a gazillion kilowatts, but it is because this car can swap its entire battery, and that will only take like 5 minutes, and I will show you that in this video. I will also be showing you the interior of the car, the exterior of the car, and we're gonna take the car out for a drive. But before we start the video, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, this is the perfect time to do so. Alright, let's get started. So yes, another Chinese brand is coming to Europe. This time it is NIO, and if you aren't familiar with NIO, let me get you up to speed. NIO is obviously a Chinese car brand, but they do more than just making cars. They also make clothing, they also make products for your house, but I would say making cars is their core business. This is the NIO ET7, the first car that they will introduce in Europe starting October, so already. But later this year they will also be introducing another car. Well, actually in January they will introduce the EL7, which is basically the SUV brother of this ET5. It has the same specifications, but it is an SUV. And in March they will introduce the ET5, which is a smaller sedan version of this ET7. Now all these models are available with two battery options, either 75 kilowatt hours or 100 kilowatt hours. But later, in 2023, they will also be introducing a battery size with 150 kilowatt hours, which is, well, insane. If you go for the 180 kilowatt hour battery in this ET7, you get a maximum range of 580 kilometers. If you go for the SUV, so the EL7, with the same 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, you get a maximum range of 513 kilometers. And if you go for the ET5, so the smaller sedan, with 100 kilowatt hours, you get a range of 580 kilometers. And this NIO ET7, you can kind of compare to a Tesla Model S. It's just a little bit longer than a Model S. However, NIO rather wants me to compare this car to a BMW i4 or a Mercedes-Benz EQS. It's actually just a little bit shorter than a Mercedes EQS, but it is not far off. And quality-wise, this car is also more in the range of the Mercedes EQS, but I will show you more on the quality of the interior later on. If you go for the ET5, again, the smaller sedan, you can really compare that car to a Polestar 2, also a BMW i4, and of course the Tesla Model 3. That car actually even looks a little bit like a Tesla Model 3. And so far NIO has made around 250,000 cars in total, and most of them are driving in China obviously. But like I said, NIO is coming to Europe now. The ET7 will be introduced in October of this year, so it's already in Europe. In January the EL7 will be introduced, and in March the ET5 will come. Now, before we start looking at the interior and before we're going to start driving this car, let's have a quick look at the design of this completely new car, completely new for Europeans. Like you can see, this car has really sharp headlights. These are actually not the headlights, these are the daylight running lights, and the actual headlights are down here. And as you can also see, the front end is completely closed off, because it is a fully electric car. Although this car has two electric motors and of course a battery pack, so it does need a little bit of cooling, and the cooling that it needs, it gets from down here, because there's a little vent down here. Let's also take a look at the logo of NIO, because that will also be completely new for most people. Let me quickly tell you about the logo. The logo consists of like a half a circle on top and a little, well, rooftop, a little triangle shape down here. Now the little rooftop figure means the earth, and the little half circle means the sky, so the air, and in the middle there's the horizon. Now the owner and the founder of NIO told me last night what it actually means. Now he came up with the idea of making electric cars a couple of years ago. NIO was founded in 2012, just before he got his first kid. He looked out of his apartment and he couldn't see the sky because, well, obviously in China, in a lot of big cities, there's smog constantly, and he was really getting fed up with that. So he thought, what can I do to improve the air quality? And then he came up with the idea of making electric cars. Now obviously he wasn't the only one that came up with that idea, because at the moment there are tons of Chinese car brands that make electric cars. Now something else that is pretty funky on the design of this ET7 are these lumps on the roof. They contain a lot of sensors for the self-help driving systems. For instance, there are two 8-megapixel cameras on the roof here that can look forward for like 700 meters in front of the car, and they can detect other cars, pedestrians, dogs on the road, you name it. And here in the middle of the roof is a really big lump, and this one contains the LiDAR sensor. Now LiDAR is basically the same as radar, except it uses laser pulses, and the laser pulses will bounce off and come back to the system, and then it can create a 3D map of everything that is happening in front of the car. And I believe the LiDAR sensor can look up to 500 meters in front of the car. Now the camera system is already operational, but the LiDAR system hasn't received certification for Europe yet. They expect that will happen quite soon at NIO, and then this car will get an update and this car will have more functionality because of the LiDAR system. And the car has way more sensors than just the 3 on top. It also has cameras all around the car, it has radar, and in total there are like 33 sensors that can generate up to 8 gigabytes of data every single second. At the back of the ET7 there's yet another hump. It's just above the rear windscreen. There's another camera over there, and there's also a camera down here as well. This is the backup camera, and on the left side of the car there's the charge port door. On the trunk there's another NIO logo, and like with any modern car, you get this LED bar that stretches all the way from the left side to the right side. That is really a big trend nowadays in the auto industry, to have this full LED bar running all the way across the back, and also on the ET7 you get that. Now I would say the exterior design of this car is pretty minimalistic. Also at the back here, just like at the front, there's not a lot of hard lines. It's all pretty soft lines. Now let's look at the luggage space. Just like a Tesla Model 3, this is not a hatchback, so you only get this small trunk lid. Now the luggage space is pretty big, I would say. After all, this is a pretty long and big car, but it is not really high. So if you have to move like higher, bigger items, it is pretty hard to do so with this car. And I have to say, the back seats are really comfortable, but you cannot fold them flat, so it is impossible to really move really long items with this car. Now there's no underfloor storage here. There's only a small compartment here for some rescue stuff like a high visibility jacket and stuff like that. And it also means that you cannot store your charging cables under the load floor, which is a bit of a shame, because that means that they always have to be somewhere around here sliding through the luggage compartment. The ET7 is a luxury premium sedan, and you can really tell here in the back. Everything feels very nice, everything looks amazing, and there's a lot of space. I'm 1.80 meters, 180 centimeters, and I've got plenty of room for my legs here. I didn't even move the seat forwards, so it will be in the same position as my seat is, because I still have enough room here, more than I need. Headroom is also pretty decent. I do have to say, if you're a bit taller than me, let's say 190 or 2 meters, you will hit your head to this panoramic roof, but it is all in all pretty good. Here in the back you got a little infotainment screen for the backseat passengers. Here you control the air vents. There are 2 separate air vents that you can set separately, and you can do climate controls here, and you can even control the audio system from all the way back here, which is pretty cool. There's only 1 USB port here, which is a bit of a shame. 2 would have been better, and even like a household plug would be nice as well. This is not a car that you always want to drive yourself. This is also a car where you want to be in the back sometimes, so you can do some work on your laptop, and then you need a household plug. Because after all, this is a luxury premium sedan, so you want to be in the back sometimes. But again, there's only 1 USB-C port. I do have to say, that is probably the only thing that I can complain here in the back, because everything looks and feels nice. You also got this really big armrest with 2 fancy cup holders, and there's another USB port here in the armrest as well. And again, all the materials are very nice, but I will tell you more about that when we're driving the car. If you want to start driving the car, you don't really need a physical key to turn. You do need a physical key, the NIO ET7 key. This is it, by the way. It looks like a small white capsule. All you need to do is have this on you, and then you can just enter the car and start the car. Or you can just leave the key at home and use the NIO app on your smartphone. You can use that one as well. Now the NIO app looks a little bit like the Tesla app. There's all sorts of functionalities on there. There's a lot of remote stuff that you can see, so you can remotely see what the range on the car is, where the car is parked. You can honk the horn remotely. So you can just use the app or the little key fob to start the car. You don't really need to start the car. You can just press this gear selector. You can press it towards you and then you're in drive. And off we go. So let's quickly discuss the interior here. Just like the backseat area, everything here up front also looks very luxurious, very premium. So you get all these nice looking and feeling materials. They are, however, all fake, but that is the point. So you get fake Alcantara, fake leather, but it is all very environmentally friendly, all very durable. You also get a lot of wood-like material in the interior, so like on the dashboards, on the center console, in the door panels. It is made out of rattan or rattan, I believe it is called in English. So all in all, a very nice interior to be in. It kind of feels like you're in a living room of somebody's house. And what this car also has is a house robot. Here in the center on the dashboard, there's a little egg-shaped robot that actually has eyes, some cartoonish eyes and cartoonish hands, and that robot can talk to you. At the moment it can only talk in English and in Norwegian, because NIO has been in Norway for about a year now, but soon it will also be able to speak German, Swedish, Danish and Dutch as well. The egg-like robot is called Nomi. It's a she, well at least in this car, because she has a female voice. And you can use the robot as a personal assistant, so you can ask to open the window, set the temperature, start a song for example. But you can also use it to have a conversation with, just to have a partner in the car when you're alone. Now, it is a bit silly to have a conversation with a robot for like half an hour, but you can actually do it. And they did it all quite cleverly, so it is actually a pretty funny robot to talk to. And if you turn up the music, if you turn up the radio, the robot will start dancing, it will get a guitar in their hand, some cartoon maracas. It is actually quite fun. But let's talk power output. The car always has two electric motors, one in the front and one in the rear. And on this ET7, the total power output is 640 horsepower, which is quite a lot. We're getting used to it nowadays with electric cars, but still 640 horsepower is quite a lot for the common man. And this car will do 0 to 60 miles an hour or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in only 3.8 seconds. So yeah, that is really fast indeed. If you go for the ET5, that car will have a maximum of 480 horsepower and will also do 0 to 60 under 4 seconds. And the EL7, so the SUV, will also have 640 horsepower and will also do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour under 4 seconds. So it is safe to say that NIO doesn't make any slow cars. The infotainment system on the car is also pretty impressive. NIO is really proud of the fact that they have the best and the fastest Qualcomm chips on this system. And indeed, there's a lot of computing power here. The infotainment system is quite fast and it is really easy to operate. It feels like you're operating like an iOS or Android system for a smartphone. It's that easy. You cannot really buy this car. You either have to get a subscription or you can lease the car. And now the prices start at around 1,100 euros, depending on where you live, either Denmark, Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands. But it will start from around 1,100 euros. That's for the ET5. If you want to have the ET7, you will have to pay a minimum of 1,300 euros a month. You can charge the car with 140 kilowatts, which is fine. It's not super impressive, but it is fine. Definitely not slow. But you can also swap the battery on this car, which is a unique feature. So this is a battery swap station by NIO. It kind of looks like a wash box, but instead of washing your car, you can just swap your battery. There's a little storage room over there where there are a lot of battery packs, around 13, that are getting fully charged. So the driver of this car is not steering the car at the moment. The computer is doing it all itself, lining up the car perfect so they can do the swap automatically here. So the car has been put on the right position. Now a tray has opened, the car has been lifted a little bit, and there you can see there's some mechanism that will remove the battery from the car. So there you have it, the car has a brand new battery pack that is completely filled, and now this car can do another 400 or 500 kilometers depending on what battery pack you have. Now you can choose to go for a different battery pack if you're here, and by that I mean a different size battery pack. So that means that if you got a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, you can choose to go for the 100 or even the 150 kilowatt hour battery pack if you're planning to do, for example, a longer journey. You can even swap back. So for example, if you have the big battery pack or the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack and you're planning to do a lot of miles only in the city for like a couple of months, you can go back to the smaller battery pack. Now obviously this concept is only gonna work if they're gonna make a lot of these swap stations here in Europe. Now so far there are only 2 swap stations NIO has just begun in Europe. One is in Norway, where they have started like a year ago, and this is the second one here in Berlin, Germany. Now, next year they're planning to do 120 of these swap stations, and this year in 2022 they want to have a total of 20 swap stations. And in China they already got 1200 of these swap stations by NIO. Now that's it for this video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.